Hey guys, and welcome to season one, episode four of Creative Cocktails. I had a chance last night to sit down with Kimberly, and we met in Las Vegas at the WPPI event. And we didn't get a chance to actually sit down and do this in the normal style while we were there. So we tried to do it on Zoom. It's a new format. It's going to look like an office meeting or whatever, but the content is great. So yeah, thanks for sticking around. Watch this, watch the video. If you have any questions, whatever, put them down in the comments below, and make sure to follow her on all of her social medias, also listed in the description. And especially if you are in the Winter Park area of Central Florida and need some headshots taken, make sure to reach out to her and all that. So enough said, let's go. Here's the video. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time. See ya.
So, three, two, one, let's go. Um, all right. I'm going to talk to you, but not you at the same time. Welcome to the very first virtual edition of Creative Cocktails, brought to you by me, somebody who you likely never heard of in your life. My name is Russ, and I like to take pictures and play with light. That is what I do, and I am joined today by this lovely lady who is going to introduce herself right now.
Hello, my name's Kimberly Jefcoat. I'm a portrait photographer based out of Winter Park, Florida, which is just outside of Orlando. And I mostly do headshots, business branding, but I've done other types of work throughout my career as well.
So, for those of you who don't already know, I've shared my stories on Instagram and everything else. We just went to WPPI, which is the Wedding Photographers and Portrait, whatever. I don't even know what it is, but it's a
International.
conference. Yeah, international. It is a conference, my first photo conference that I've ever been to. And we met there. And I mean, to be honest, like I really did have a good time going. It was tiring, it was exhausting. But early mornings, late nights, back to back to back, that kind of stuff, like it exhausted me. However, from the classes, I learned a lot. I learned more from having interactions with the actual people, from the networking and the conversations that we had after the fact, than I did anywhere else. And Kimberly was definitely part of that. So you, you've told people that you do headshots. And what I really want to dig into is what brought you to photography, like in the first place.
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I guess I should say before I was in high school, I was like obsessed with my parents' yearbooks and yearbooks in general. I love to flip through them. I love to try to find my parents in group photos or kind of just like look at the pictures and be like, that's my favorite person for whatever reason, or that
Yeah.
person looks cool, whatever. So when I was in high school, I wanted to be on the yearbook staff because of that. I just thought it would be fun to be on the yearbook staff. And then I discovered that we had a dark room in the yearbook staff room. And so anyway, I joined a yearbook, and I was handed a camera. I did not know how to use it, but I was like
Hmm.
fascinated with learning how to use it.
Yeah.
And the the two guys that were the photographers for the yearbook, they were, I don't know, maybe a year ahead of me or something like that. I was like, how do I use this thing? Like, what do I do? And they were like, just put it in F8 and you'll be fine. I was like,
All
okay, that's what
right.
I'm just gonna leave it in F8. So anyway, it started in high school, and then when I was going to college, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I started taking photography classes, taking black and white prints, film in the dark room. I just love to discover the world with a camera, and just see what I could do to like capture lighting, or I would photograph my parents, my siblings, whoever I could. And it was just fun. It was like this kind of fantasy world that you could just create things in.
Yeah. I mean, to pick up on that, I got my first camera. I walked into a pawn shop one day just because I was bored, and I walked out with a Mamiya media format camera, and um, that started my entire career.
Mhm.
It's really funny that I'm not a photographer by trade. It's not like something that I do professionally. I just love to create. But the fact that that Mamiya having that and like wanting to like just capture or create anything. And then at that time, like of the age before digital cameras. So like when it's a film camera. So like I would go I would go to Colonial Photo and Hobby or wherever and get it developed, and then I would scan it, and then I would play around in Photoshop with it. And that's what led me into design. Uh in general, like just my love of Photoshop and love of creating. So that was right around high school time for me as well. And I think it's really interesting uh, that those hobbies or those things that we think of as hobbies can somehow become a pivotal moment in our lives. That one moment where you're like, you saw the first yearbook picture and then saw your parents, in that. And you're like, this is cool. I want to do this. And then it led you to, I want to be on yearbook. I want to do this. I want to do this next thing. Um, those tiny little pivotal moments that we have in our life, it's really fun to think back on those things. Um, but the nature of that is the urge to create. And photography allows us to be able to do those things just like Photoshop does or painting or any other art form. Um, but what made you like decide this is the thing?
When I was trying to decide, I always have been like an artistic, creative person. In high school, I was in, you know, the AP art classes, and that was just one of the things that I was really drawn to. And so when I was deciding, I thought, okay, I could do something that was practical, or I could pursue photography. And it was photography because I felt like it would be something I would regret if I didn't try.
Yeah, sure. I try to like make it your life's work or make it like the kind of the center of your life in a way, like professionally
Right.
or just like in general.
No, I mean, at the time, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with photography. I did end up getting I have a fine art background, and that's what
Mhm.
my degree is, in photography. But when I graduated from college, I did not know what I was going to do. I
Yeah.
was that degree was really geared towards if you were planning on pursuing higher education and becoming a professor, or if you're planning on entering like the art world, which
Mhm.
I thought that I wanted to do, but I think I was hesitant. And so, yeah, after I graduated, I was a little lost. I was like, I just don't know what I can actually do with this degree, because I
Mhm.
didn't really have I had the artist education, but I didn't really have any sort of practical application of that knowledge. I didn't have any business classes. I didn't have any, marketing classes or anything like that. It was really about art history and creating.
Yeah. So, I mean, just like me, at least what I did, like my degree is in micromolecular biology. It has nothing to do with what I do,
Yeah.
at all. And so that pivotal moment came for me in college when I was like taking some photos of friends and I would scan them in. I would create like these crazy, like just fantastical environments and back in Photoshop version 2 or whatever the hell it was, 50 years ago or however long it was. Um, but as a job, like I worked my ass off when I was in school. Like I worked at a barbecue restaurant. I worked at um just different jobs. But at the same time, like I did event photography, and you might know this. You went to University of Florida, yeah?
Hmm.
So do you know Night Photo?
I do know night photo.
Yeah. So a really long time ago, I worked for them.
Um,
I went to University of Central Florida for my undergrad, and when I was
okay.
there, I shot for their fraternities and sororities and all their events and stuff, and the bubble parties and whatever else. And I got paid pretty well, to go out and do that kind of stuff. But you never know when a social chair is going to call you at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and be like, "Oh, we have a party tomorrow night. We need a photographer to come by." That kind of stuff. That ruined it for me, like transactionally, like when you take the fun out of the creativity and you make it into a profession, it took the fun right out of it for me. Um, but still, ever present was the desire to photograph things. And that made me decide science is awesome. I love it. Whatever, I'm weird. But taking the science or the physics of photography and kind of blending that with the creativity that I want to make something that doesn't exist yet is what fueled the passion to become a graphic designer, become an art director, become a creative director. And like that changed my entire life without me really even like not necessarily a pivotal moment, but in a way that is ever present. And I think a lot of people have that drive, but they haven't identified it yet. So when you graduated from school, I'm going to imagine it's the very same thing. You know that you want to do this, but you don't know how to do it because I haven't spent the time to understand all of the facets around it, all the spokes of the wheel that makes something that you love into a business.
Mhm.
And now you have been doing that. You've been granted the opportunity because you stuck with that passion.
Mhm.
So once you graduated, what happened next?
So once I graduated, I actually stepped away from photography for probably about 7 years.
Mm.
I would do things, I would take photos for like personal reasons, like, you know, pictures of friends, or I being in a fine art background, self-portraits was always a discipline that we were taught, to
Hmm.
do self-portraits. So I would still do those from time to time. But I really put down the camera for about 7 years for a few reasons. One, that was around the time that things were moving from film to digital.
Hmm.
And I really didn't think that digital was going to be anything, and
Right.
so I guess I was like kind of turned off by that, and also just not knowing what I wanted to do, a lot of reasons. But I turned to other artistic outlets, like I painted and did ceramics and drawing and that sort of thing. But it wasn't until I think about 2010 that I got my first digital camera and decided that I was going to pursue photography as a profession and just figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once that realization happened, I know we've had conversations, but really trying to figure out what you were going to do. You decided that it was going to be a thing. This was going to be your profession. Um, what happened? Like, what decision did you make? Like, what connections did you make? Like, did you try like anything and everything photography related to make it work?
I mean, pretty much. I come from a background of working in restaurants, so
Hmm.
there's no shortage of people that I could photograph, You just I feel like in the
Yeah.
restaurant industry you make friends pretty easily. And so I would photograph people that I worked with, either like family portraits. I dabbled in weddings. I thought that that would be an avenue that would pursue. I ended up second shooting for a wedding photographer in Orlando, and I I just decided at the end of the day, I was like, I could do this, but I don't really want to do this. It
Yeah.
didn't fill me, I didn't feel fulfilled from doing it. But yeah, I tried, I mean, really just about anything, event photography, um, family portraits, which is something that I still do for clients, weddings, which I don't really do, engagements, event photography, if I didn't already say that, real estate, food photography, I tried a bunch of different things. And then headshots, and which was what what I is my bread and butter, are the headshots and the branding. And that came about from working with a local magazine. That's really what really
Mhm.
carved my path in that respect. So
Yeah. So you tried everything, and you landed on the thing that fulfills you the most. Because if you really wanted to be a wedding photographer, you would have just stuck with that, right? And
yeah.
I've shot exactly one wedding
Yeah.
ever. Like that was
Yeah.
I was one and
The
done
whole
with that.
thing.
Absolutely one and done. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not me. I do not have the personality for this. It's just not going to work out. Um, so um, I kept my stuff just different than anything else. But I also it was never. It's still not my drive to make this my like bread and butter, to make this my income. Um, for whatever reason, like I just have an issue with making what I really love be transactional. Um, that it's really difficult for me to do. It's not to say that like other folks that do that like are really successful at it, and they're like, yes, I really love what I do, and this is how I earn my money, and so on and so forth. I It was really funny. You asked me like, what kind of photography do you do? And I was like, I play with light, but I don't do this, I don't do this, I don't do this.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it was
You're
like
like,
it was funny, but it's true, and I struggle with explaining what kind of photography that I do is because it's so nondescript. It's just I play around with light, I have some fun with it because I'm not reliant on it,
but
right?
you do have an aesthetic.
Yeah, I do have an aesthetic, but I mean that's just me coming through, like my particular artistic style, like coming through, or my interpretation of a theme or whatever else. But like I am surrounded here in Asheville by wedding and port like just elopement photographers. Let's go up to this really nice, beautiful place and take, close emotional photos or whatever, that kind of thing. Like that's not my vibe. Like it's just not. I will go on a hike, but it's not. I don't want to make my living from that,
Yeah.
right? Um, I really love the job that I have right now, and photography is fun, but that's why I like doing these things too, is to try to understand and try to like engage with other people who get their mojo from making somebody smile for the best headshot they've ever had, or the best experience getting photographed that they've ever had. And
Mhm.
regardless of what, like how photographers, name it or call it, um, if somebody like searches for a photographer, 9 times out of 10, they're like headshots, Orlando, whatever. Like they just Google for that. And all they mean is portraits, but they don't know the difference. But, so photographer
Right.
terms and general layman's terms for looking for photography is vast. It's so wide and so different. I'm gonna like I'm gonna deliver a pointed question, and that is like, what sets you apart knowing what your mojo is? Like, what sets you apart?
I would say for one, I I am very interested in like obtaining like an authentic expression from people,
Hmm.
you know. I would say that that is definitely one of the things that sets me apart, is that I do care about those details. I care about all the little things, how their hair is, or the tie isn't tied right, or all those little things that just make a big difference when you have a final image.
Hmm.
I I pay attention to all of that.
Right.
And I don't, I mean, I know that a lot of photographers do, or some do, but I would say that that is one of the things that sets me apart is just really caring about their experience and being able to make them feel comfortable and bring forward something in them that maybe they didn't think they had.
Yeah. Um, I connect with that because I don't care about those things most of the time. Like
Right.
when I have somebody like that does truly set you apart because I will have people come into my garage studio or whatever else. Like I have no idea what wardrobe they're bringing or whatever else. Like even though we've talked about something and trying to build a cohesive vision, ahead of time, mood boards, all this kind of stuff, and then just show up in something completely different. I'm like, well, let's just put on some music and see what happens. It's like that's how it goes with me. But I am
Yeah.
so in tune with what's going to happen lighting wise or trying to craft the image that I have in my mind that
Hmm.
um there might be loose hairs or flyaways or there might be like an offset tie and stuff like that. Like I just don't pay attention to that stuff. I have so much more fun like just connecting. However, um, the final image is the result. It's like what you get is what you get. And if that's authentic and cool and creative and whatever else is different, that's where I get the vibe from. Like, and so I don't worry about the details so much. I worry more about like the experience
Hmm.
that's happening. Um, but and I know you do too. It's like you
Right.
want to have your client come in and have a great experience. Like this is the best experience I've ever had being photographed, and I want to have a great time doing it. But I also
Hmm.
want to deliver the best image. So yes, we're having a great time, but let's fix that tie. You know,
Right. Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
situation. I
Yeah.
just because it's not my income, because it's not my focus. Like I just don't worry about it as much. Um, but having said that, has there been a time that you can think, like in your photography career, at least let's say in the last 5 years, that you're like, this is the most successful shoot that I've ever had?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's even recently I had a shoot and I was looking at the images. Well, even being in the moment, I was like, this is good. Like I knew
Hmm.
it was good, kind of a thing. And then seeing the images later, I was like, okay, this is moving in a like a more refined direction or, a direction that I want to go. Yes, for sure.
Right. So, like, just tell me about that. Like, how did it feel?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So I recently did a shoot for I have this client that I've been photographing, I think for about 6 or 7 years, and I do family portraits. I've done like headshots and branding for the mom. We'll just call her the mom.
Mhm.
And then she has 3 children. And so her her children are like in like the dance world and that kind of a thing. So
Mhm.
they needed photos of themselves, like more along the lines of like branding photos or photos they can enter in competitions. And so anyway, I typically photograph them at their home. And when I was there this last time, they had their garage open, and I was like, let's shoot in your garage. Like and all this time that I photographed them, I've never photographed them in their garage before.
Right.
And the lighting in a garage can just be absolutely beautiful. You have the light
Can
coming in
be.
from the garage door, and then it's just, kind of bouncing around everywhere. And I had brought a like an ottoman, like a rectangular shaped ottoman.
Yeah.
And so like the girls were posing on that. And because they're in the dance world, they know their bodies so well that it's easy to photograph them. It's
Oh,
like they
sure.
have their toes pointed already perfectly. They know they just are so in tune with their bodies that they just look. I don't have to really tell them,
What to do?
like,
Yeah.
if their like fingers are like, this or
Claw
something like that.
hands.
I don't have to like guide them. It's like they're already in position. I might just have to say, hey, can you move over a little bit, or
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so yeah. So, I mean, that was a really cool experience because I've watched them grow up. And so I've
Hmm.
these girls, like along the way. And yeah, so anyway, a lot of the photos that I took at that session, I was like really happy with.
Yeah. So let's go to the complete opposite.
Okay.
In the last 5 years, tell me about an absolute crap shoot.
Well, um, actually, I told you
Also
this.
recently?
What's that?
I
No,
said
actually
also recently?
not recently. I would say it was probably in the like last 4 or 5 years. But I actually did a comedy skit about it because I told you that I've done like stand-up comedy a couple times.
Yeah.
And so I did a 5-minute routine on this client. And um basically she was the just most she was a headshot client. She
Hmm.
wasn't paying for the session. She was
Right.
sent by her company. And she was the most difficult person that I was I was scared of her. And
Uh,
that's saying a lot.
okay. All right. All right. So this
She never smiled.
person, not at
Never
all. Like,
smiled at
she
all.
wanted to get photographed for the job she wanted, I guess. Like just the
She
stern
she
CEO look.
was like one of those people that I found out she was one of those people that is incredibly um gifted and talented and with what they do with their job
Right.
that it like her person I mean, I don't know. That might not
The
be
job
the
was the
right word.
personality. Is that what you're trying to say?
She
Like the job?
doesn't need to have a good personality. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
She's like one of those one people that they're like, okay, she's ornery, whatever, but she does her job really well, so.
Right. Right. So during that session, you're scared of her. All this is going on. Um, you consider that a failure or still a success?
It wasn't a success, no.
You're
It
like,
was
I'm,
not,
I'm not going to
no.
call it a failure, but I'm not going to call it a success either. So
I
that's
mean,
totally fine.
I guess in a way it kind of felt like a failure, because I, I do feel like I am able to put 99.9% of people at ease,
Yeah.
like I have like whatever. It's like you kind of you play up, like I can be awkward, so it's like you sometimes you just play into your awkwardness, or
Yeah.
just like a little bit of self-deprecating humor, or throwing out jokes and whatever. But I mean, um, yeah, I would say that it was a failure because I wasn't able to turn it around, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And but obviously like you have there are levels to all of this kind of stuff. And so you might not have the best experience with somebody. You're not going to get along with everybody. You're not going to be able to like really get the person to get the exact thing that you want. As long as the client's happy and that in the end, that's what matters for the paycheck, kind of thing, for that particular shoot. But like when you're doing something a little bit more, let's say creatively driven by you, right? And you have somebody in front of your lens and it's just not working. What do you do in that situation?
I usually just start playing around with the lights. I'll be
Just
like,
a
oh, let me change. I'm gonna change the lighting. Let me move the lights around,
yeah,
that kind of thing, so that it just like changes the tone, or I don't ever I wouldn't ever say to anyone like, oh, like
that's how I
criticize it.
roll. Yeah.
Right, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
But sometimes I'll play with the lights, or of course I also try to show them what it is that I want. But like, okay,
Yeah.
this is what I'm seeing you do, and I'll like show them with the pose, and I'll be
Hmm.
like, this is what I want you to do, and sometimes
Right.
you have to be really specific with the instructions that you give people.
Oh, for
But
sure. Like, I mean, I had a shoot recently to where the the whole vibe of the thing just like just hit a wall. Um, and I was honest, like I was like, this isn't working. Let's just do something else. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that
Like,
that does happen. I think sometimes I think I have a pretty expressive face too, and I have people have said to me, you don't like this. And I'll be like, no, I don't. And I'll be like, okay, but then I'll be like, okay, I was like, let's like go to a different room or let's change the light or something like that. But so yeah.
yeah, I think, I mean, it is, even though I don't like, I mean, I do charge for some things. Like last year I did the 50 free portraits because I have been out of photography for so long. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable charging people a premium for something that I'm not 100% comfortable with. So now I'm fine. Now I'm fine with it. So moving forward, like this year, I'm doing like some free shoots, but I'm most of my work is paid work. Um, but in the free shoots, I am like absolutely unhindered. I would be like, this is not working. I don't want to do this. Like, let's do something else. Like, if we're not getting the vibe, you don't like it, I don't like it. Why are we wasting our time? Let's put on some different music. Let's have a good time, right?
Yeah.
Um, when that is a client that is completely different, right? You have to be able to try to overcome something in some subtle way, be like, this is cool, but I think it would be better if we did it this way. Or
Yeah.
so on, so that it doesn't just completely ruin the thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I do feel
but
like you can still interject that honesty with what you're talking about and just be like, no, I'm not really feeling this, or
yeah,
like you definitely can, even if it's a paying client, because it's like if you're not feeling it, then
well, I'm sure you're not going to get the
we got to
best
change
results.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not going to get the best results from it. And I 100% believe that 100% of the time, if you are open and honest with the person who's in front of your camera, they are going to be 100% honest with you. And that is my thing. Like, if somebody's there and I'm like, this is not, nope, this isn't it, right? How can we come together to create something awesome, right? And to get their vibe. Maybe they don't like the music. Maybe they don't like that particular lighting of that side of their face. They want to pose this way, but they're too afraid to tell you that they want to pose this way. You know, it's like those little subtle things and the psychological blocks that so many people have when you put a camera in their face makes all the difference. And that's why I believe that like that 10 to 15 minutes, if you're lucky enough to have that amount of time as a headshot photographer to get to know the person, to ask those very simple questions like, hey, when you take a selfie, which way do you look? Or do you have a side of your face that you prefer? That kind of thing. Getting to know them and making them feel the most comfortable is going to yield the best results regardless of anything else, really. It's just showing the connection that you can make in 15 minutes and the emotion that you can evoke from someone through conversation or through relationship is going to make the best images that you've ever made. Like, in my opinion, like that's just going to happen. Um, but speaking of making the best images you've ever made, what's on the agenda for you? Like, what do you want to do next? How do you want to go from paying clients to do creative work?
Yeah. That's a great question. Um this year I've decided that I want to not only create personal work, which I feel like I always do, but I don't always share it.
Right.
So for me, I've decided this year that I want to share my personal work with the world, or
Yeah.
whatever outlet that it is that I choose. So yeah, so that's a big thing for me. Um just like I'm part of a photography group, and they have a monthly contest, and each month
Hmm.
the theme changes. So I've entered it every month so far this year. Um, and yeah, I've started to do self-portraits that I've shown people because there's just so many. I just have so much work that I've never shown,
Hmm.
and so I want to just eliminate that fear or whatever it is, that maybe it's a fear of judgment or being misunderstood. I think
Yeah.
that is probably a big thing that keeps me from showing it. So I just want to, I mean, share. I want to share, my work and just put it out there and be like, look, this is it. So,
Yeah. Do you, I kind of want to dive into that for a second. Um, why do you care what other people think?
um, I, I
That's a
don't know.
very hard question to ask. I know I just like threw that gauntlet at you, but like it really is. Like, why do you care as an artist? Why do you care what other people think?
Okay, I will say that it's funny. I, with the work that I show people, I don't care what they think, if that makes
Okay.
sense. Okay.
Eh,
So the work that I show, I'll be like, if someone has something to say about it or whatever, I'm like, "Mm, okay,
Yeah,
whatever. I like it, like, or, that kind of thing. It doesn't bother me. But I guess uh, I don't know. I guess maybe it makes me uncomfortable if I'm showing work that is
personal.
vulnerable,
Yeah,
that's personal, that yeah, I think that it kind of gives me a little like, but I think that the older that I get, and this sounds so cliche, but the older I get, the less I care about what people think, because when it comes down to it, and I've thought about this a lot actually recently, I don't like everyone. I don't like
yeah,
everything. Do
I
you know?
know. Yeah,
So it's
I
like,
know.
yeah, so it's like, okay, so why would I care if someone didn't like something or whatever? So anyway, I'm trying to get past that.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like I was having a conversation the other day, and the way that I phrased it to the friend I was talking to was I want to create not just photography. I don't want to just take good pictures or be known for like good lighting or whatever else. Like I want to create things that like punch people in the heart. You know what I mean? Like I want that. I want that kind of impact. I want to create images that people are like, what the fuck is that? Or like,
Yeah.
man, that really makes me feel something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's what art is supposed to do. It is supposed to be emotive. You
Right.
know, it's not just supposed to be a frozen moment in time, right? It's supposed to, in my view anyway, make you think or be translative of what's happening, like interpretive of what's happening in the world right now, and it'd be a statement piece. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's always the case, but for me, it is because I'm not reliant on it to pay my bills or whatever else. Like, I want to do some things that like really mess with people's heads. Like I really want to do that. And I want to encourage other people if they are very passionate about something, just like you were, knowing you want to do something with photography. Eventually, somehow, some way, I want to do this from a younger age of going to college and going through the whole process of getting a degree in photography, knowing you're not going to do anything with that degree and still make something of your life with photography. Like there is a deep rooted passion there that I feel that you need to express. You should express, and you shouldn't give a goddamn what anybody else thinks about it. Um, on the personal side, on the professional side, that's different. You know, on the professional side, you're a client pleaser. I need to make sure the client is happy. They are the client. When you do something that's from the heart and you post it, I understand the trepidation of that. Like I understand putting yourself out there is the hardest thing for most artists to do. Putting something that is a piece of you out there to be judged, or at least potentially judged by other people, you're gonna intrinsically care what other people think about it, right? But at the same time, you're putting it out there to put it out in the world. And if you keep that as your resolution, I'm doing this because I need to do this, regardless of what anybody else thinks. Um, you're gonna find it easier and easier and easier to just put it out there, you know. Um, I'm talking to myself right now, I know, but
Right, right.
it's like, yeah, when you create those statement pieces, it's gonna cause some backlash, maybe, maybe not, who knows? Maybe like it'll get 10 views and whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, but it's still a piece of you going out there into the ether, right? And into the netherworlds of internet, and that kind of thing. But um, anything else that you want to tell the 19 subscribers and potentially like hundreds of viewers of this video?
Thanks for watching. No, I don't know.
Any discount codes you want to give away, or just kidding. I'm kidding.
Hashtag no discount code.
Yeah, no discount code clue. Yeah, that's it.
No, not at the moment. No.
Okay,
But
cool. Well, I'm gonna put all the links to all of your stuff in the description for
okay.
folks
Yeah.
to do and all that. And it's been a great conversation. I thank you for doing this. You know, the first
Yeah.
ever remote version of Creative Cocktails
Yeah, this is
and
awesome.
and so on. And enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.
You know, that kind of stuff.
Looking forward
So
to it.
until next time, everybody, y'all have a great night. And yeah, I'll see you next time.